don't have any reservations about the autumn statement at all. It's a very good statement. That's what I said to the Cabinet this morning, and that's what I've been saying to the media today. It's a very good statement of a good record of growth, business investment, successful policies on employment, a lot of the things which I've personally been campaigning for in my department. As you know, investments in science capital, in technology centres, in apprenticeships, it's all very good stuff. The argument that you refer to is not about our autumn statement, it's about what happens in the next Parliament. I was making it very, very clear that we have a different approach to the Conservatives. They are preoccupied and they're making claims about tax cuts, which I've said, are simply not realisable. And there will be an argument about the different mix of public spending and taxation. I don't believe we should be cutting vital public services. I certainly don't believe we should be cutting some of the things which I and my colleagues do, promoting growth, apprenticeships, science and so on. And I think that may be a dividing line with the Conservatives.
I mean, what do you think will be cut if the Conservative plans flowing from this autumn statement are implemented? He says you're not his boss, but anyway, he's a junior minister in your department, Matt Hancock, speaking to me, and he was saying there will have to be further welfare cuts. There'll also have to be a continued freeze on pay in the public sector or a cap there, and further cuts in pensions for public sector workers.
Well, I think the common ground is that whichever party is in government after the election is going to have some very tough decisions. There are going to be tax increases and there's going to be severe restraints on spending, whoever is running the country. I think the list of things you've just mentioned, I think, are part of reality. What I'm very anxious to ensure is that what the Conservatives call as welfare cuts do not result in cuts in the standard of living of low-paid workers who are getting, for example, tax credits, that we don't lose some of the investment that we're making in the key growth activities. I mentioned apprenticeship science, for example. They're absolutely critical. It's very difficult to see how the Conservatives can achieve their objectives of protecting those core services and their policies on tax. They don't add up. And there is a different view, and we should be expressing it.
So what would you do? You'd put up taxes more and cut less?
Yes, there's a different balance, and obviously in our manifesto we will be clarifying, what the difference is and what specifics we are considering. I don't resile from the fact that the next government, whether we're involved in it or not, whatever government it is going to have to make some very tough decisions. And any government is going to have to increase taxes, and it's going to have to be very tough on public spending. That is a given. But the question is, within that, where do you strike the balance?
Do you regard yourself and the government you served in as a failure, bearing in mind the priority which you gave to eliminating the deficit this Parliament, and as we know, it's only been cut by half rather than totally gone?
No, I don't regard it as a failure at all. I think the government has been a success. We inherited a deficit that was on staggering proportions. It was a consequence, of course, of the banking collapse and everything that surrounded that. It's been cut by half. But we have, in the process, managed to support a real recovery, much better than in other industrial countries, a real improvement in employment, as we discovered today, a big increase in business investment. And we've got to strike a balance. We were criticised earlier on in the Parliament for cutting too much too soon, and we're now being criticised sometimes by the same people for not cutting enough quickly enough, and that isn't sustainable. We've struck a balance between budget discipline, and that has happened, and we've made tough decisions. My department has had to take cuts of 25%, and we've done it, we've delivered it, it's much more efficient. But at the same time, we've got to support growth, and that's the balance we've successfully struck in this government.
Your colleague in the government, Danny Alexander, has said tonight that what you're asking the Office of Budget Responsibility to do is not its job. Do you still regard yourself as a fully engaged member of this government, loyal to the government?
I'm very much a fully engaged member of the government. I've got a large team of ministers. I think we've got 8. 2 Lib Dems, 8 Conservatives. We work effectively. It's businesslike. We don't pretend we're the same party, because we're not. but we work effectively as a team, as part of the government. The request I made to the Office of Budget Responsibility wasn't particularly controversial. It was just saying, can we look at some scenarios of different futures in the next Parliament? And with their authority and independence, they could give us some independent numbers to look at. I don't care whether it comes from the OBR or the Treasury or someone else. We do need somebody who can set out objectively what the two parts of the different parties are going to be after the election. That's all I was asking for, so we can have a proper informed debate.
And